Porsche. That was started by Klaus Bachler. It's now got Martin Ragginger on board. That too, doesn't, from a long shot, doesn't look as though it's got rain on the screen, but certainly the windscreen wiper is being used into the stadium section of the circuit.
7 seconds I make the gap between the 911 and the 15. We haven't already mentioned the 100 car from Volkenhorst Motorsport, but that car hung out for an extra lap as well, did the 8-lap stint, so therefore was briefly third, but that car's also stopped now, just like the 12. Number 4 car running, well, actually fourth place now on the road, because we have the sneaky SP7 car, which hasn't yet stopped. And we've previously, in earlier rounds of the VLN, had the Porsche 911 GT America lead the race because it can do 9-lap stints. It's not as quick as the GT3 cars, but number 62 SP7 car, I make that now third on the road and ahead of the number 4 Porsche from Falcon.
Now very close, looks like we're having an overtake in class. That's the Muka Motorsport Mercedes, number 26. Now I've got my numbers in straight order, picking off is that one of the Fricadelli cars, the red and white? Or in
yeah,
fact,
31 it may be.
Or it could be, just waiting to see. Again, you often get a very long shot in the VLN. The numbers aren't enormously clear. They're fine on the car doors, but looking from the front, not always to pick it out. But it could be the number 12, actually. That's also red and white. The number 12
further round, having just made a stop. And sadly, the focus is on the pink Mercedes rather than the red and white Porsche just tucked in behind. But car 31
it could be 31, or it could be
has
30.
made a stop. It could be 30 as well, you're right.
Klaus Abelin started that.
It will be 30 because that's
okay.
right behind 26. There you go. Oh, damage for the green and black KTM, car number 926, which does, by the looks of things, have the class lead, despite part of that front trim peeling away from the car.
Well, it has the lead by about 3 seconds from the Stuck brothers car in behind. But yes, the front bodywork, effectively the bonnet, even though it isn't, one wing of that is up at about 30 degrees from true, be in driver's line of sight, but he'll be able to decide if it's worth coming in for a pit stop. He's not bothering. It's clearly not moving around that much. Who knows how far ago it came back up, but and they'll know how it's attached to the car. But in the bright sunshine of the start-finish straight, 3-4 seconds clear of the Stuck KTM Crossbow that's giving chase in class. So still the 926 ahead of 925. But actually, if I say it's 30 degrees, maybe it's 20 degrees that it's up from true. Shouldn't be obstructing the driver's sight too much, but what is that normally attached to at the back? There's the question. Certainly it won't be helping the aerodynamics too much. It's just kicked up above the headlight. It's almost as though it's just had a slight knock from the front, or maybe they hit a curb and it's just bounced the back catch.
Yes,
out of true.
Short, sharp vibration would have broken that little bit of bodywork and forced it up into the air. It's probably spring-loaded to an extent, and it just pops into the air. But I mean, it will affect obviously airflow across the car, but
and vision into left-hand corners.
Yes, because I think the driver does sit off to one side, but they're left-hand drive cars, so yeah, that really is going to restrict vision, as you say, particularly through the left-handers, of which, despite this being a clockwise circuit,
yeah, there are only about what 40 of them around the course of that.
I know, it's not like a standard track which turns right far more than it does left. This, I mean, clearly it does have to be a clockwise circuit, but there are an awful lot of times that this track turns left. Adenauer forced springing to mind. And the carousel,
which is wet.
Yeah, wet concrete on the inside. If you decide to go on the higher line, which is a slightly shallower camber, that is where some of the rain is accumulating because it's getting less traffic. Very, very tricky through both the Caracciola carousel and the Schwalbenschwanz, the Kleiner carousel. So 925 is the non-damaged KTM, is that right? No, that way, maybe that is the damaged one.
No, it's the non-damaged one.
Okay, so there's quite a considerable distance then between the two. There it is, away, the green and black car.
Yeah, well, it's sort of doubled its lead to about 6 or 7 seconds over the Stuck car. Watch them come in, I'd say it's more like 10 seconds now, so maybe it's a new bodywork tweak they'll all be asking for on their KTM Crossbows.
Redesign, happy accident, car going very fast indeed. and heading to a really swift part of the circuit now, down towards the right-hander at Arenberg, but you come flying over the top of the hill, plunge down into the depths, and then the quick left-hander as well, just a dab at the brakes and set the car up for that sharp right-hander, which then throws you down into the foxhole under the bridge, where the trees swallow you up left and right, and you re-emerge at Adenauer Forst.
You hope.
That's the plan.
That is the plan. So, track conditions quite difficult out around the back of the circuit. Little spatters of rain towards the end of the lap as well. Start-finish straight, bone dry. So all the drivers, particularly those who've just taken over to start their stint, they don't know what to find, what they're expecting. They all know they've got a fresh set of rubber underneath, and that's the one thing. Is it the right rubber? But again, suddenly we're shown a view of the start-finish straight, bright sunshine, but the clouds in the background are such that you can't make out the old Nürburg Tower in the distance. But if you're sitting in the grandstands here, you'll see the clouds moving around, but you'll certainly know that at the far end of the circuit, it is where the rain has been coming down. You won't know if it's still coming down, but it is very tricky conditions here for VLN number 6 for 2017, and leading the way is the 911 Porsche from Manthey Racing. We briefly at the top of the time screens we got the number 12 sister car, but that came in for its pit stop a lap after the leaders, so it should slot in behind down to about 6th position, we think, overall. But this race so far has been between the 911 Porsche from Manthey Racing and the 15 Phoenix Racing Audi, both front row starters. They seem to have the legs on the rest, and the number 4 Falken Motorsport Porsche tried to give chase, as has the Lant Motorsport number 28 Audi, but it's really the first two that are predominating, with 2 hours and 40 minutes remaining.
Over the line goes one of the many Pixum Team Adrenaline BMWs, the Aston Martin in the red and white paint scheme, just working its way down towards the first corner as well. I've seen that earlier on in the year, but my first chance to glimpse it in this race. So there's quite a number of Astons in the entry, including the GT8 that we've mentioned. There's so that's the 134 car. The Avia Racing 188 SP10 entered Vantage is the one I've just spotted. So is it just the 2 Astons we've got in the field? Yes, it is. One from SP8 and one from SP10. And we're in a phase of the race now where the BMW M235s need to stop. Leader back to the main straight though, and it's still Manthey Racing and the 911 numbered 911 from the Phoenix Racing Audi number 15, and way in the distance the number 4 Falken Motorsports Porsche running in 3rd position. So this is the point where we see the SP7 Porsche coming in, which has been for that lap 3rd on the road, but car 62 finally in to make a stop, so that means it falls away now from the overall top 3.
Yes, so really at the end of this lap we'll start to have the full picture of the where the Caymans are running in their order. All the SP9 runners have made their pit stop at the front end of the field. The best placed car, outside their classes, is that SP7 class, number 62 Porsche. More rain again on the run back towards the end of the lap, and certainly for a group of cars it's very, very tricky. It looks as though that debris has been removed from the side of the circuit, which is good news indeed. They would have, as you said, Johnny, all those who stayed out would have known it was there, but those coming out of the pits wouldn't have known. We saw a few have to swerve their way around it, suddenly found wondered why those ahead were pulling to the right of the circuit, then found they had to do so as well. But I think that has now thankfully been cleared up. So it's the 911 Porsche leading from the number 15 Audi, given chase by the number 4 Porsche. And mustn't forget that Robin Frietz is really starting to get the pedal down in the Monteplas by Land Motorsport Audi. That had the long pit stop. I'm just waiting for the screens to readjust, but I think it dropped it to 8th place overall, behind the Black Falcon Mercedes. Just waiting for confirmation of that. That does seem to be the case. So I have to get to the foot of why it was such a long pit stop for the number 28 Audi. It had been running 4th, looking as though it could catch up with the 3rd place Falcon Motorsport Porsche, but at the moment not doing so.
Class V6 is the class that contains number 435 And 435 is the class leader indeed, from the number 394 car. So we've got a Cayman out front in class V6. 394. What is that on the entry? Bear with me a moment. 394 in second place in that class is the Black Falcon Porsche 911 Carrera, the Team TMD friction car of Saud Al-Faisal and Olaf Schluter. Meanwhile, another Pixum car, again in the same paint scheme, just like the BMW, but this time it's a Porsche heading down towards the first corner. That's another one of the Fricadelli cars. That probably is the 31 then, as opposed to the 30, which is definitely with company, the 26 Mercedes just ahead. Treble 4 car is a V5 Porsche Cayman of Norbert Fischer and Christian Connerth, together with Daniel Zils. And that car running first in class V5, in fact 52nd overall.
Okay, well, let's give you the running order of the top 8 cars in SP9. They've all completed 9 laps. It's Romain Dumas leading the way by 6.5 seconds from Nikolai Moller-Madsen in the Phoenix Racing Audi. So it's Mante Porsche, Phoenix Racing Audi. Then we have the Falco Motorsport car in the hands of Martin Rackinger. That is 15.5 seconds down. And in turn, 10 seconds clear. That's Robin Freintz, driven 28 Monteplas by Land Motorsport Audi, is making decent progress. 10 seconds gained on the number 4 Porsche on the last lap alone. So the Flying Dutchman is doing precisely what it says on the tin. And then listed as 5th overall, but having made its pit stop, it will be passed. So is the 62 SP7 class car and the number 7 car. We haven't really talked a great deal about the Black Falcon Racing Mercedes. That is up into 5th place overall. Then you get the 2 other Manti Porsches, 59 and 12, and then in 9th place and 10th we have the Luca Motorsport Mercedes, number 26, Christian Hohenadel, and then Norbert Siedler in the better placed of the Fricadelli Racing Porsches. That's your top 10, but we expect that number 62 SP7 class car to drop down that order from what is listed as 5th place. It had the later pit stop, and that's why it's risen as high as it has, but also because it's being very, very well driven. 691 looking strong. That's the Onk Motorsport M235i. Been looking out for that. The one with the black livery.
Yeah, has been second in Cup 5 for most of the race, but now leads the class, interestingly, from the 669 car and then the 694. So there's been a fair bit of shuffling of the order there, maybe because of 1 or 2 delays in the pit stops. And the treble 6 car that was running 3rd has slipped to 6th place. And the 691, I think, was battling with 669. Those 2 cars have switched positions. 695 a loser as well, down to now 4th position in the class. So yeah, the Bonk Motorsport car of Tri enjoying, well, it's not a huge lead, it never is in this class. 25th and 26th overall are the 235i leaders.
Well, I think the winners and losers, sure, you can have some slow pit stops, but I think it was a question of who was really, really brave in the rain out of the back part of the circuit. We certainly saw the Adam Osijeka, Fabian Schiller, whichever one was on board that Porsche Cayman Club Sport, going really, really well relative to its rivals. Picking its way up the order. Of course, that. So 6.5 seconds is the gap you need to know between the 911 Porsche leading the race from Nikolai Moller-Madsen Audi in 2nd place. What will it be this time around? They were both lapping a whole lot slower than the number 4 Porsche that's giving chase. So maybe that's going to come down, and faster than all of them last time around by a huge margin was Robin Freintz. In fact, you know, his last lap was 21 seconds faster than our race leader. So he was clearly, when he came out of the pits, right on it. And as can you continue to be so. You're looking at split times on your screen, Johnny. I don't know how Freintz is going in number 28.
Yeah, again, really the numbers back that up. He's not going massively faster than the 3 cars ahead of him on the first sector, and similar speed through the second sector as well, although marginally fastest of the top 4. maybe lost a little bit of time in sector 3, but I think the fact that they lost some time during that pit stop just further fired up the Dutchman. And as you say, the guy's rapid at the best of times and seems to be making the best of these tricky conditions too. 3 all-white BMWs of varying shapes just duck into pit lane and adhere to the 60 km/h speed limit as people run from the apron to the pit wall.
Clearly strictly policed in the VLN, because otherwise you could have a gazillion people up on the pit wall. Very limited numbers per car out on the circuit, and these teams, they know how crowded the pit lane goes, and they do have to make space for others and certainly consider them, because really.
And the poor pit lane klaxon that warns everyone that there's another car coming down pit lane is barely silent for the 4 hours. Has no downtime whatsoever.
It's a loud klaxon at the Nürburgring as well, isn't it?
Yes.
It used to be a real head splitter. By the end of 24 hours, your head was just tired anyhow. But yes, we've suddenly got a flurry of the junior class cars, and again with a long shot, it looked as though one was about to clatter another. I'm sure there was enough space between them. Race leading 9:11, 6.5 seconds clear. Last time around, I suggest a second or two had been shaved off that by the Phoenix Racing Audi. Nikolai Mollin-Madsen really starting to close in. But in turn, I wanted to see how much Ragginger and Freitz were catching the two of them. So the 911 crosses the start-finish line now to complete lap number 10. Just waiting for its time to come on the screen. It takes a little moment or two for the timing screens to catch up. But his last lap was an 8:53, which is 48 seconds off the best pace in the race. Now, winding it up after that pit stop. Of course, they were coming out there. No, hold on, they've had a full racing lap.
They have, yeah. Audi gained a second through sector 1, lost 2 seconds through sector 2, gained another second in sector 3, but the big gain for the Audi in second place was sector 4. That's the 3-minute sector of the lap. 3 seconds gain there for Mollin-Madsen on Romain Dumas. So the gap is 2.1 seconds, is that correct?
Well, it didn't look that close. By the end of the lap, I'm waiting for the screen to catch up.
I've got 2.1 seconds.
Okay, well, I'll wait. We'll find out.
It didn't look quite as close as that.
No, it was about 4 seconds. I thought it'd come down from 6.5 to 4.5, 5 seconds.
See what your screen says in a couple of moments' time. No, I know. Can you take the suspense? 2 hours and 30 minutes to go. The cars are on to lap 11 now. Romain Dumas driving 911 and Nikolai Mollin-Madsen at the wheel of the number 15 Audi, and it's Martin Ragginger trying to hang on to the coattails of the two leaders in the two-tone blue Falcon Porsche.
And in the Grand Prix sector of the circuit, it is bright sunshine and dry track. That isn't the case the whole way around the circuit. I think the weather is really starting to pick up now. Much more heat haze out around the circuit. 2.122 seconds is the gap between Romain Dumas and Nikolai Mollin-Madsen, and then behind it's another 13 and a bit seconds, but the big news is Robin Freitz is now just 3 seconds behind Ragginger. So the 28 Audi in 4th place is on the charge. That much we already knew, but the fact he lapped a mere 7 seconds faster than the race leader on that lap just shows the Dutchman is coming in that number 28 Audi, and I don't think he's finished yet.
No, well, certainly Ragginger, the first man on his list. I think he should be able to get by him relatively swiftly on this lap, but then the question is how far up the road have Romain Dumas and Mollin-Madsen got at that point?
Yeah, well, he was 18.5 seconds behind the race leader when they crossed the start-finish line, and if he continues at the pace he has, he will be hauling that down to maybe a dozen seconds by the end of this lap. So, yeah, anything is possible for Robin Freitz. Very busy racer, obviously Formula E, Blancpain GTs, and anything else he can drive. And he's one of those drivers. He got his toe in the bucket of Formula One as reserve driver, and that was the end of that. But he is certainly making a very, very fine living out around the world, and rightly so. A real charger. Again, first chance in a while we're being shown some onboard footage, and it's not just to watch the fabulous scenery that unfolds ahead of the drivers as they really tackle this brilliant circuit. It's to see how much light, how much rain there is. And the good news is at the 2/3 point on the circuit, it's bright. The track is wet. It's certainly not as wet as we saw a short while back, 10 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago now. We had heavy rain, but only at one very short sector of the circuit out after, well, I suppose Versiepen Metzgerfeld, it was wet there. Then the rest of the time we've had spotting of rain, and now no rain on screen, but it's definitely greasy out off the racing line. So don't forget, around the Nürburgring Nordschleife, you will find gaggles of slower cars if you're in a relatively quick one. You've got to go round them. That puts you on the wet bit of the circuit. So that said, Johnny, people have been behaving very well. We had a few clatters in the early couple of laps. I think the first lap took out several cars. It seems ancient history that we lost the number 8 Mercedes, but that sadly, in a 4-hour race, anything can happen.
Yeah, if you enter a 4-hour race and want to do 28 laps and don't even make it to the end of the first one, that's a real struggle. Now, was that one of the key players in the Cup 5 division, a very, very smoky Pixum Team Adrenaline BMW, and that's certainly been troubling the top 5 in that category. So need to keep tabs on what's happening in the order within Cup 5, because it is set to potentially change. Don't think that was the race leader. I'm trying to remember the numbers now, and the Pixum cars can easily look that up though to see which number that was which was struggling. It looked like possibly a blown engine, and therefore a really serious problem for the car, which I just caught a very quick glimpse of. It may have been 668 in the Cup 5 category, or possibly the 675 car, which may be an even bigger story. 669 is also in those colours too. It's one of 3 machines, but 679 running currently 6th in the class.
Another car I'd just like to pick out, Johnny, is the number 7, 5th place overall, the Black Hawk Mercedes. That is lapping as fast, if not faster, than the first couple of drivers. In 5th place overall, it's got ahead of the 59 and 12 Mante Porsches, and Hubert Haupt and Saad Al Faisal, sorry, Abdulaziz Al Faisal driving that, but up into 5th place, going very well, and that is not catching the car ahead, but catching the 3 cars ahead of that. So we'll wait and watch to see the progress, but really all eyes ought to be on the 28 Audi. That is the car fastest around the circuit at the moment. We'll be closing the gap. The top 4 covered by 18.5 seconds at the end of lap number 10, but by the end of lap in number 11, I think we'll see that squeeze down to around a dozen seconds. Second chance to see the smoking car at the side of the lap.
Can we grab the number? No chance. Oh, it might have been 675, possibly. Yes, the 7 Black Falcon car, Abdulaziz Al Faisal, Eric Johansson, and Adam Christodoulou are the 3 drivers.
No, okay, not Hubert Haupt.
Not Hubert Haupt, no. Was that the entry list you printed off yesterday?
Yeah.
I don't know how recent this was, but definitely Christodoulou, because he's been tweeting about his disappointing qualifying session early this morning. The number 1 car going through, which is another Porsche.
It's one of the Giga Speed cars, one of our camera cars.
Yes,
Alexander Meese, Tim Schibart and Steve Jans, who started the car. They are running in 16th place overall, 2nd in the Cup 2 class. And going very tidily, all looking 4 square and proper. That's Alexander Meese on board at the moment.
So it is, with Meese on the elbows of his overalls, racing overalls, charging his way now towards, this is Hatzenbach, I reckon. Yes, the swing left and right, and then on towards Hocheichen, Kittelbacher Höhe and Flugplatz towards the end as well. But this is a really good place to spectate from, and up on the grass banking, plenty of people making use of that great spot.
And I think, Johnny, you sold it short. You said left and right. It goes left and right, left and right, left and right, or is it right and left? It's a sequence of wonderful S's before the track. Having gone into the woods, before you get to Hatzenbach, it now starts to open out, not in terms of the scenery, but just in terms of the view. You've got the long views on the fastest stretches of the circuit. And I certainly think the first time you ever treat yourself to a lap or 2 of the Nürburgring Nordschleife, you get through those corners, and then you see the essence. Oh, we've got a car pulled over at the side of...
That's the same car. That's the Pixum BMW.
Didn't quite make it back to the pit garage, and the race leaders are side by side.
Either side of the Ferrari 458.
Oh, my word. So
what's that under... It was just beyond the green flag, I think. I was slightly concerned.
Yeah, we can't tell who was ahead because it was a foreshortening, a very long shot. But if it was half a second between them, that's the maximum. And the number 4 Porsche was closing into the background. I didn't see the 28 Audi.
Audi ahead then for Phoenix Racing. That's a change of lead with the Porsche back up to full speed now as well. And in the distance, we have the Monteplasst Audi through.
Monteplasst has got past the Volker Motorsport Porsche, so I suggest both those changes happen when the field is released from that slow area on the circuit, and it's almost nose to tail between the Phoenix Audi and tucked in behind the 911 Porsche from Manti Racing, snaking across the circuit in the slipstream, trying to use any advantage of a toe it could get, but the protective line down to the inside of the first corner, going around a back marker, gave a little bit of helping hand to the Phoenix Audi, but certainly the Porsche driver not too happy. Romain Dumas quite fancied the lead of the race, lost it, and now he's got to get it back all over again. So Nikolai Moller-Madsen, sharing the Phoenix Racing Audi, is in the lead of the race. And then right in the background of the shot, we were treated to the fact the third and fourth place cars have reversed their positions, and Robin Freitz up to third, but being given chase by Martin Ragginger.
Yeah, the Mercedes Arena in the background, almost looking like they're up on the banking at Daytona, swinging around through the left-hander there. And yes, as you say, the Monteplasst 28 car now ahead of number 4 Falcon Porsche, but we have Audi ahead of Porsche too at the head of the order, with more traffic to negotiate for Nikolai Moller-Madsen. Was he the most awake then coming out of the yellow flag area? I hope there wasn't an infringement and overtaking commencing earlier than it had to be, or legally should be. Blue flags being waved for the cars about to be lapped by the third and fourth place cars as well. Onto the Hatzenbach, almost getting the dive up the inside there with Romain Dumas on Moller-Madsen into Hatzenbach itself, as the recovery continues on the Dottinger Höhe for that stricken Pixum Team Adrenaline BMW.
It doesn't seem to matter the fact where they are in the race, whether it's after a pit stop or before, but the 911 Porsche and the 15 Audi have put on some cracking overtaking manoeuvres on each other through the first hour and a half of this race, and it's far from finished. They're covered by, Johnny, it's conservative to say there's a second between them, and all along I think the little grouping in third and fourth are starting to reel them in. Last lap a bit unrepresentative because of the slow points on the circuit, the points with the BMW that's being now towed in. And that's going to affect a lot of cars. It's right at the right-hand side of the circuit from the driver's point of view. Waved yellow flags. And that's got to get to the end of the lap, but that will interrupt a few of them on their run in towards Tiergarten. But the good news is the lead battle is well and truly on. Number 26, Mercedes, still trying to gain places. Christian Hohenadel now at the wheel. He's in 8th position. He's got to set off after the Kern and Close. Number 12, Mansi Porsche. Waiting to see if his times improve. He's still got quite a lot of time to make up on that one. Still in 8th place.
I think sadly that car that's stuck on the long straight on the Dottinger Höhe is the 675 of Griezmann and...
I think that would tally.
David Griezmann and Daniel Zills.
I just want to blow the trumpet. How close was the lead battle when it crossed the start-finish line? Less than a fifth of a second. 0.177 of a second after 11 laps. What's it going to be after 12?
Well, I can tell you that the two cars have set identical Sector 2 times. One
down to a thousandth of a second.
Indeed.
Unbelievable.
1 minute 8.255 for both cars.
It is 6.75. You can see daisies and other flowers in the grille at the front. I think that's because it's been towed off the circuit. It's now being removed backwards, tattered front left corner.
And here's the scrap in V4, did we say, for these two BMWs? They have been virtually attached to each other from the start of the race and putting on a splendid show, still in the same order, although that's not to say that they haven't changed order on several occasions. Is it 492 and 474? 474. Okay. So that is V4, but it's probably for third and fourth rather than the lead of the class. And at the wheel of the Cayman GT4, the 940 car, is either Fabian Schiller or Adam Oreshko. I reckon it's probably Adam, actually. Doesn't look like Fabian.
Can't quite see enough of his face. Just want to say, though, first four covered by a whisker over 7 seconds. Last lap, it was 18 seconds. Yes, I think that slow period hampered the first two, hampered the Phoenix Audi and the Manti Porsche, but certainly Robin Freitz now into third place, and Martin Ragginger, the Volker Motorsport Porsche, catching right up. Now it's wet again over the far side of the circuit. Seems to be on an alternate lap, doesn't it? Wet lap, dry lap. What are you going to find? Just wipers beating away.
just a 600ths of a second exactly between the two leading cars through sector 3 this time. 208.963 for the race leader, the 15 Audi. 208.903 for the 911 Porsche. Yes, it is. By very, very small margins, but
okay, let's have a look at
nevertheless.
the timing intervals. Oh, the ones behind lost ground. Just as we got them down to 7 seconds for the first four, the first two re-established their métier, re-established their advantage, and are pulling clear. Traffic, changing weather conditions have a role to play in all of this. I was getting super excited thinking that the Land Motorsport Audi and the Faulkner Motorsport Porsche were catching them, so we could have 4 cars fighting for the lead as they pick their way through the battling tail enders. But it seems as though 15 and 911, they have been predominant cars in qualifying and in the early laps of the race, are getting away again. But all it takes is another flurry of rain somewhere out on the circuit to perhaps bring out an incident, or maybe just make them back off a little bit. Because when the rain was heavier, it seemed the chasing duo were better. Let's find out. To get a sight of our race battling duo. Don't forget, just under a 1/5 of a second between them when they cross the start finish line. And as Johnny was looking at all the split times, that was coming down by 1,000 here or there and everywhere.
Now Adam struggling therefore to get now past some slightly slower cars. This is Adam Osika, we think, the Moist Path based driver for Gigaspeed Team Get Speed Performance in their 940 Cup 3 Cayman. And just ahead, oh, there goes one of the KTMs, very squirrely into the right-hander.
Yeah, it was just ahead. Oh, there's a spun car just in front of that, just with its tail diagonally onto the circuit. And what happened there was the KTM that dived up the inside suddenly found him on the wet part of the track when he wanted some traction. And then as he was just getting the car balanced, there was a car with its nose towards the barriers. I'm not sure if it's hit it. 2 cars abreast had to get past that in the diminished stretch of the circuit, going past
that's the Mercedes SLK 350, I reckon.
It looks like it's just driven out of the car park and had some numbers slapped on the side. I noticed that as the 3rd grouping of cars got away, but short work was made of it by the KTM Crossbow. Adam Osika also seems to have powered past in his Cayman GT4, as you would expect.
Yeah, car 404 being the SLK. I remember picking that one out with John Hindhoff previously. And it was one of those cars we got sort of 2/3 of the way through the race and didn't even realise it was in there. But that's always the way with VLN.
We've got 180 cars, 140 corners or whatever.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to pick them all up. But yes, it's extraordinary. However long the race is, you suddenly see a car and it just looks so clean.
Yeah.
All the others, I mean, they should be clean. It's a 4-hour race, but it does look as though it has just driven out of the car park.
Through the carousel then goes the Cayman, car number 940. But what about the race leaders? I think my timing screen has frozen now because I haven't yet seen sector times for the leading cars through the sector 4.
The mix chased all over again. It's the Phoenix Audi back into the lead, the 911 giving chase. In fact, that's how it was at the start of the lap. Sorry, I've confused everybody there. I'd say the gap between them 2.5 seconds, I reckon, as they go onto the start finish straight, maybe a whisker under 2. This is staying very, very serious. But again, back into the full sunshine as they cross the start finish line to complete lap number 12. Yeah, I think 2 seconds or so. But importantly, you cannot see. Oh yes, we can now, behind some slower cars, you can pick out the Land Audi, and I didn't quite see the aquamarine nose of Martin Ragginger's Porsche number 4, but I think that is in there as well. So maybe they're another half dozen seconds down. Timing screen hasn't confirmed it. So 911 still giving chase. Romain Dumas got so close to Nikolai Moller-Madsen. I'm sure traffic had a role to play, as you can imagine, around the circuit here, but also the changeable conditions. Still waiting for the interval. It was 0.177 of a second last time around. Grey clouds in the background, and I think it's down to 2 seconds now. But again and again, Johnny, we see the Porsche is so handy through the twisty Grand Prix circuit corners at the early part of the lap. They have to negotiate about 6-7 of those, and they go into the drop, up to the chicane, and then they go out onto the full glory of the Nürburgring Nordschleife. But certainly this race far from over. Nearly at the halfway point, another 13 minutes, and we will be in this round, the 6th round of the VLN for 2017. It's the RCM DMV Grenzlandrennen These races all have wonderful names, don't they? But it shows this club element. The various racing clubs around Germany get their shot within the championship, their chance to name the race. Last time out, it was a 6-hour race. It was the Ruhr-Pokalrennen. Historic races that are conglomerated in this championship, and it just is such an enticing series. Brilliant cars, but best of all, the star, as ever, is the circuit.
Still waiting for an interval at the end of lap 12 between the 15 and the 911 car. Kind of don't need a timing screen. It was 1.3 seconds.
1.3, nearly 1.4, Johnny. I reckon, you know, not as close as you think. 12 seconds for the, well, 11.9 down to 4th place. So it's still super, super close. If we get a long shot, we'll have all 4 in them. But still, 15 and 9 and 11. What was the biggest gap between them? 4.8 seconds, I think. It's the biggest we've seen on the start-finish straight.
And some great times coming in now for the number 7 Black Falcon Mercedes. I reckon that's Adam Christodoulou at the wheel of that.
He's 21.5 seconds down on the race lead, and that is way less than it was a while back. So fantastic job done by the Black Falcon Mercedes crew. So it's Audi, Porsche, Mercedes, Porsche, Mercedes. Then Norbert Siedler in another Porsche from Fricadelli Racing in 9th place, and 10th place, the best of the BMWs from Walkenhorst Motorsport. Christian Cronjes, the Norwegian driver, listed as the driver, but I think he might have started the race, sharing with Finn Matthias Henkola and German racer Michele De Martino. That's their M6 GT3. And it's a VLN race, and we've had it picked out. 617, the Opel Manta with the foxtail on its aerial. Could be taken from any race and just dropped in, couldn't it?
Yes, it could, true, but it's definitely there again for race 6 of the year, the Kissling Motorsport run Opel Manta, and it's leading its class, no less, too. Class H2, 70th position overall, and its nearest rival, the 660 car, is back in 126th place, so unlikely to lose that lead anytime soon. 2 hours and 11 minutes still on the clock, with some side-by-side action at turn number 1, including the 181 Porsche, which is an SP10 car, second in the GT4 division, effectively. There are some other GT4 cars that extend into other categories. Up the inside goes the 111 car. That's not an SP10 car, so not technically a move for position within class. 111 is a Cup 2 car, yeah.
Willie Moore and Bill Cameron, British racers, running in about 20. Last time I looked, they were 26. I think they might have dropped down a little.
They're 4th in class, I can tell you.
Running order again.
And the leading Cup 2 car is
37th position overall, 4th in class, you're right.
The leading car in that class is actually the 117. And car 117 is the Team 75 Motorsport 911 GT3 Cup car of David Jahn and Marek Bochman. So 4th place in Cup 2 for basically a division for Porsche Cup cars. 357 just going onto the Hatson back there. One of the Opel Astra OPC Cup cars as well from Cup 1. That may well be the only OPC car in the entry. I know there's a number of them, but they're not all housed within the same class. We have a Cup 1 version, in fact a couple of Cup 1 versions, and then several more in V Class 2, a V2T machine in fact, for an Opel Astra. There goes the Renault RS01.
I've lost that on my timing screen. I was having a little search. It fell to 116th. It was picking up 15, 20 places a lap. What I can tell you, though, we also haven't seen that white Octane 126 Ferrari for a while. That's lost a lot of ground, and in fact, it's down in about 160th position. I'm trying to see if it's actually out of the race.
We've got car 55.
Yeah, it's 5 laps down, the Porsche. So I think that is the
Ferrari. Yeah.
131st position, 5 laps down. I think that tells a story of its own.
Car 55 actually in its best position of the race so far, I reckon. The end of lap 10, 52nd.
Ah, just there, off my screen, yes.
But has been as low as 150th place overall.
It's lapping well though.
Yeah.
Minutes 38. And you
got up to 70th place, then had to stop, make a mandatory pit stop, fell down to about 100th place, and is now back very nearly into the top 50 overall.
I saw it at position 116.
Did you? Yeah.
Well, it might have fallen further. That was the point at which I picked it up, because of course the big gaps around the circuit here between the timing beams, it could have lost a whole host more. But that, we thought, when it got a puncture, and we thought we were on board, riding on board with it when it happened. Suddenly everyone else went past. It was right on the tail. I can't remember which car it was chasing, but that went off into the distance. It was all the way back to the pits.
I mean, the story tells you the first lap took it 19.5 minutes. That's
that. Gosh, was it? I thought it was lap 2. Well, there you go.
Yeah. And sadly, from that point on, it's just a question of, well, the only way is up, I guess. And 52nd position, it's reached so far. So we'll see how well it does in the in the latter 2 hours of the race. AMG GT3 version coming into Tiergarten. That was car 44.
That's one of the Schmicklers. There's Marcus and Stefan Schmickler sharing with Kai Riemer. That is down in 14th position. Looks like it's heading for the pits. No, just veering to get round the back marker. So should continue in 14th place. The next car up the track for him is the Interloper, the SP7 class car. No, sorry, the second Cup 2 car of Alexander Mees. We've been riding on board with that a bit. So the Landgraf Mercedes looks great in that white and blue livery. I think the pink stands out, but white and blue, you know, it just stays crisp, doesn't it? Time-honoured colours for television. The Germans have always had a penchant for white and blue cars. They seem to work out very early on what worked on TV. I think it was the early days of the DTM, and they did some analysis, and that has long been the favoured colour scheme. In the M2350 Racing Cup class for BMWs, you can have any colour you want. And a couple of the runners in that are about to be monstered by our leading duo, the 15 Audi, slashing by them up the inside. No point backing off at all for Nikolai Moller-Madsen. He's actually put two of them between himself and the 911 Porsche that's giving chase, Romain Dumas. Dumas got the worst of that little contretemps. Luckily it wasn't a contretemps, but it could have been. But certainly Nikolai Moller-Madsen he was, as we said, 1.3 seconds clear last time around. He would have gained a bit there. That was very, very positive driving.
Yeah, the Cup 5 division still led by the black 691 car, and then it's 694, 669, and then the treble 6 car of Thomas Jaeger, or Thomas Jaeger drives that at times. There it is, the dark blue machine, tucked in behind 669, I reckon. And then the Monteplas Racing Audi having to lap those cars in a second. Already through is Nikolai Moller-Madsen, as you say, taking that gulp of Cup 5 cars, holding his breath, closing his eyes, turning left at Tiergarten and gaining crucial real estate over the 991 car, which is in turn having its wheels driven off it by Romain Dumas. And we're probably not very far away from the second bout of stops now, because homing in on 2 hours done, 2 hours therefore to go. And this is lap 13, so they'll do this lap and one more, I reckon, and it'll be time to stop again.
I think we're on lap 14. I think we're waiting for the times to come through after lap 13.
That would make even more sense,
wouldn't it? And then we stop after 14.
Yeah,
which is sort of bang on. And I reckon that very positive move on the approach to Tiergarten, the little left-hand kink before it, probably gained Nikolai Moller-Madsen as much as he'd managed around the rest of the lap. It was very bold, and the cars just fell into position for him. 2.6 seconds clear, so he doubled his advantage, 1.3 to 2.6, and Robin Freins lapped almost exactly at the same pace as them. He stays 8 and a bit seconds down, but Martin Ragginger losing ground very, very slightly in the number 4 Falcon Motorsport Porsche. He's now 14 seconds down, so top 4 covered by 14 seconds, and then we think it's Adam Christodoulou catching identical times for him, so he's another 10 seconds further back. So 13 laps gone, 24 seconds between first and fifth. That is close. We've had changeable weather nearly at the halfway mark in this race. Johnny Palmer, Bruce Jones enjoying proceedings, watching VLN round number 6. I think this race has got a twist of the tail. What I would love now is a big shot to show us the clouds, because they could have a big bearing on this race, Johnny, because we've had smatterings of rain for one moment, probably for only about 30 seconds, really heavy rain out at the back of the circuit. But these variables are very much the bread and butter of the VLN, and I think there are some more up their sleeves.
941, another Gigaspeed car we've talked quite a little bit about already, and 941 was, I think, third in its class in Cup 3. Let's just check on its progress now. Fallen to 5th place with the 940 car, one of our camera machines of Adam Asika and Fabian Schiller leading the way. 19th overall, with 4 overall places back, the 979 car. Car 26 still going strongly. That is 7th place now. So yes, tucked in behind the number 12 Manthey Porsche and the hard-charging Adam Christodoulou driven number 7 Black Falcon Mercedes.
In terms of pace, the top 5 runners, 24 seconds separates them, but their laps last time round were between 8 minutes 22.6 and 8 minutes 25.1, so 2.5 seconds between the first 5 in terms of their pace last time around. Everyone else behind them is a fair bit slower. Star of the show, toss up between the race leading Nikolai Moller-Madsen and Robin Freitz in 3rd place. Their Audi's really hitting a sweet spot at the moment. Their best lap, or their last lap, separated by, we're down to 5/100ths of a second. That was the difference between them on last lap speed. But of course, so many variables around the Nürburgring Nordschleife. Another minute and a bit, and we'll be up to the half distance point in the race. After 13 laps, 2.6 seconds between the number 15 Audi and the 911 Manthey Racing Porsche. Another 6 and a bit seconds back to the chasing number 28. We've got to see how far Robin Freitz can reduce that lap, by how much, but we think their next round of pit stops will be at the end of this lap, because they stopped almost bang on 1 hour. The first pit stop was about 59 and a bit minutes when they came in, and we think the same pattern will be repeated. Last time around, the number 12 Porsche, which is in 6th place overall, stayed out for 1 extra lap. Expect it to do again that very same thing. That should put it fleetingly back into the lead of the race, but it will owe us the pit stop, and Julie have to come in. So it's 15 from 911, 2.6 seconds between them. It's scarcely been more than that. It's been an absolutely fantastic race. We're into the final minute of the first half, Johnny.
We certainly are, and yeah, the slight question mark is strategy around the number 12 car, because if it does 3 lots of 8, that will take it to 24, and then it needs to do a 4-lap stint effectively, unless it does a couple of 6s along the way.
Okay, let's throw something else into the mix. We have sort of forgotten, not mentioned it for a while, that 28, that's running in 3rd place, Monteplasser by Motorsport, had a very slow first pit stop.
Yes.
Without that, they should have had enough pace to be right in that lead battle. I think they lost more time than just the mere 8 seconds. So, on terms of pace, they could have enough to do it. Second half of the race.
True.
9 seconds, 8 seconds. We're just about at the half distance. One of the stars of the show has been a driver who's gained many, many places, but he fell down to about 116th, 120th place. Dieter Schmidtmann, Hamel and Lazar-driven Renault RS01. One puncher has absolutely scuppered their race, but it's led to a fantastic chase and a lot of overtaking as they make up ground. That car's still not in the top 50, however.
So in the UK, it is 1 p.m, 2 p.m. in Germany at the Nürburgring Nordschleife, and you're tuned to RSL Extra for our coverage of race 6 of the year for the VLN. It's Bruce Jones and Johnny Palmer taking you through it. We're on double duty this weekend, with VLN taking us through till just after 3 o'clock UK time, just after 4 o'clock Central European time, and then we look forward to much later on this evening on RSL Extra at 11:45 British Summer Time, the FIA World Endurance Championship qualifying from Mexico. We're doing the race live tomorrow afternoon, with our countdown to green due to start at 5:30 p.m. If you're not in the UK though and wanting to catch our action, just go to radiolemans.co, and look at the schedule at the bottom of the page. It will convert into your local time zone very conveniently indeed. Remember, we also have another broadcast going out exactly the same time as us, so therefore there is something to fill the time between this VLN coverage and World Endurance Championship qualifying this evening. Head along to radiolemans.com to get live coverage of the Barcelona 24-hour race, the touring car event that's taking place there from midday to midday Central European time. So that will all be done and dusted tomorrow at midday, in readiness for a little bit of a break, and then you can rev up in time for our start of the FIA World Endurance Championship from Mexico, assuming, of course, the weather conditions have eased somewhat, with waist-deep water being reported around the main airport in Mexico City. That had to be closed, with flights being transferred to Cancun and other places. Acapulco, yeah. I believe.
I was just about to sort of joke that after the Creventic run race at Barcelona, they'll get out the paddling pool, but they won't need one if they're in Mexico City, because all that water is there. But certainly, yes, after 24 hours around Circuit de Catalunya, people will be suitably tired. And again, the Creventic series, you have to say series plural, because of course it's all being split now into the prototypes, the GT cars and the touring cars. It's the touring cars' turn this weekend. Full field of cars down there, and I'm sure the crew having a great time. But they're already 2 hours into their race over there, and a pattern may be emerging. It's certainly emerging at the VLN here. 6th round of the 2017 championship, and the lead battle. The front row are still the front row. They're still first and second. In fact, the other way around. It's the 15 Audi ahead of the 911 Porsche. The subplot is they're being chased down very hard indeed by the number 28 Monteplas by Land Motorsport Audi. So it's Audi, Porsche, Audi, and in fact I suggest on this lap Nikolai Moller-Madsen has stretched it a bit more. It's 2.6 seconds the end of the previous lap, and is that Land Motorsport Audi getting closer? Certainly lights are flashing, only one back marker between them. Robin Freitz in what we think is the last lap before this cluster of cars come in to make their second pit stop at the midpoint, just past the midpoint in this 4-hour race. Conditions been testing for the drivers, a smattering of rain, but that's all it takes to transform this difficult circuit into a really, really testing racing arena. And at the moment, Robin Freitz is not putting a foot wrong, but don't forget, this is the team that stumbled in its pit stop for whatever reason. Its first stop was slow. It's not a procedural problem that will rear its head again. A problematic corner on the car, perhaps. Can't suggest what it is, but that team has been chasing. Seemed out of the picture. We've got a car stopped on the circuit, one of the BMWs, down the long run-in at the end of the lap. Hazard lights on, but it's on the circuit. Sitting there, waiting to see if there's any debris. Really, it'd be rather better if that was sitting on the grass at the side of the circuit. It's not. It's on the track. The drivers have a long, clear run down towards it. They can spot it, but... oh! Alt-delete, start, and the car, BMW, is getting going again. That is good. It's always heart in mouth, and now the waved yellow flags have been replaced by waved greens, and that car will get back to the pits, one would suggest, with just a corner or two to go, just as the GT4 AMG Mercedes comes through in the background, run by Uwe Altzen Motorsport.
Yes, so it's that 54 car then?
Yeah, the 52 didn't get to make us... well, it took the start.
We don't think it did.
We don't know. I will do the scrolling to the bottom of the screen, Johnny, and I'll let you know. But you line it up for a 4-hour race and you don't get going. Very disappointing. I think it must have got going.
It was on the dolly jacks, wasn't it, early on? And clearly that wasn't part of the script. That is the 54 car, though, which carries a very similar livery to the 52. Just a few minor tweaks, a bit less yellow on that car.
Yeah, this is the one that made its debut last time out, VLN 5, and obviously the GT3 version of the Mercedes AMG has been a real backbone of GT racing, continues to be so, but Mercedes very cleverly, with an eye on the burgeoning GT4 category, have got out a great looking car. All the familiar sponsors on that, but strip them all out, it just looks really, really purposeful in GT4 form. You put that next to a Porsche Cayman and it seems almost as though they're in different classes, because that Mercedes just looks so much bigger. In fact, when you measure the dimensions, it isn't a great deal bigger, but some cars just have an image of sort of muscularity. Yeah. And I think very much that's the case with that one.
Yeah, extra dive planes, extra bits of aero, the huge rear wing on the car as well, and a good chance to compare the two, actually, because the 7 car is now back on the move after a recent stop. So Adam Christodoulou,
that was the first of the front runners to come in. The top 4 went through, and having got up to 5th place, we'll see that falling, and presumably Abdulaziz Al-Faisal will take over that number 7 Mercedes and go back into the mix. But certainly that was a very strong run to sort of start homing in on the top 5. It was about 26 seconds down, I think, was the gap last time around, but Christodoulou can be very proud of that little sprint he had there.
Yes, very much so. Although, well, interestingly, the start, as far as the start drivers are concerned, it was Christo to begin that stint from the off. So if it was Christo to start, did we therefore put Eric Johansson in for the second stint? I don't know. Or Abdulaziz Al-Faisal, perhaps, with Adam Christodoulou possibly bookending the race. So he may well go in at the end very tricky to stay on top as to who's in the car at any one time, I'm afraid.
It is unfortunate because a lot of the timing screen gives us a driver. They weren't even the start drivers, so we have to guess. And it'd be lovely if they had a little element that allowed it to flick over, but busy down in the pits.
Well, that technology is being worked on, and is often in use for the Nürburgring 24 hours these days. Just we don't always have it for VLN, but Christodoulou needed to hand to somebody at pit stop number 1. So every credit to either Eric Johansson or Abdelaziz Al Faisal for hauling the number 7 car up into contention.
Top 3 cars, the 15 Audi, the 911 Porsche, the 28 Audi, covered by 8.6 seconds, but their last lap, fastest driver, the lead driver, 8 minutes 13.4 was his lap. Chasing car, 8 minutes 13.3. And the 28 car chasing both of them, 8 minutes 13.2. How's that? So it's closing in. Very, very tight indeed. And of course, as the director, all he has to do, he goes, right, okay, lead battle, very close. Let's find another battle. Oh, another battle in the next class down. And then he has to flick to the M235i class. It's spoiled for where to go looking. But the 979 Porsche has just been running so super well. Overall championship leader, Hamza Ovega, Alex Schuler, and Moritz Krantz. Great looking car, really well prepared. About to pick off a position, diving deep inside 981 by the looks of things.
181, I think it was. Yeah.
981 doesn't exist. The highest number is 980, so that would have been a difficult, nay, impossible manoeuvre. But Ovega is second in the Cup 3 class, but overall championship leaders. So this is what they've done throughout the season. They've just been in the top 2 or 3. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Trying to chase down our camera car of Fabian Schiller. So that chase continues on at the moment. But I can't see the 940 car in the vicinity of 979. So, although they are 25th and 26th position, so it can't be that far away as those cars head out. And here is the car we talk about. So, surely there's not nearly a full lap between these guys. As the 940 car just heads into turn number 1 now. Whereas the 979 car is just going onto the hats and back. So that is it. That does not incredible run, if that's the case.
Well, our timing screen still shows 940, car we were talking about. Osieka.
Yeah, still waiting for
979. So we'll try and clarify that. Sometimes you get a timing screen that slightly stays in the lurch.
True.
940 is going through a section of track. Well, he seems to be behind them on the circuit as well, which would tally with what we thought we were seeing.
Yes, true. It would make more sense that he was behind than in front, certainly, because that's 8.5 minutes in front.
Oh, well, in fact, he's had a second pit stop. Okay, he's now dropped to 34th position in the pits, but in terms of pace, he's picking it up all over again, and certainly flashing his lights very, very vigorously. Looking to pick his way back up to the lead of the class for Giga Speed. Adam Osieka, Fabian Schiller, been treated to a lot of onboard footage from them. Race leading number 15 Audi, about to come in and make its second pit stop. We've already had the number 7 Black Falcon. No, he's not. Oh, by golly! We talked earlier of one car nearly hitting the end of the pit wall, and what we had, the race-leading Audi was on the wrong side of a car as he overtook it, almost sort of Audi at Le Mans quite a few years ago, failing to Frank Miller failing to get into pit entry.
Yes.
And the 911 Porsche from Anti Racing has come in, and right on their tail, equidistance. I reckon there's only about 5 seconds between the first 3 as they come in. So Robin Frientz put in a mighty chase down on that 15th lap. Patrick Pilet waiting for his teammate to come in. Romain Dumas bringing the bright yellow and green Audi Porsche into position ahead of the Audi, and then the Land Motorsport Audi comes to a halt, and it'll be the changeover back to Conor de Filippi. Just waiting for Robin Frientz to climb out.
So these driver changes are nice and simple because there's only 2 drivers per car. So as you say, Frientz for Conor de Filippi in the 28. It'll be Dumas out and Patrick Pilet in for the 911, and Frank Stippler to replace Nikolai Moller-Madsen in the number 15 Phoenix Racing car. Now, is there concern here about